Hi everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be making some cards in the Close to My Heart's November-December catalog. And we're going to be working today with silver bells. This has been highly popular. It's been brought back in stock recently. So if you're thinking about it, I would highly encourage you to get it. Because this catalog now, Close to My Heart, is bringing out a new catalog every 2 months. And this will end at the end of this month, December 2023. And then just as a reminder, Close to My Heart has a yearly catalog with the basics in it. So all your inks, all the paper colors, all the solid colors. Let me see if I can get you to the back here. All your sheet protectors, all your flip flaps, that kind of thing is all in this catalog. So let's get us started and roll the intro. I'll be right back with you with card number 1. All right, welcome back. We're at card number 1, and this is going to be a slimline card. Now, when you're working with Close to My Heart, you've heard me say before that they come with complete directions, and you have to excuse this when I've marked it all up. But this tells you how to put everything together for a total of 16 cards, 4 of each design here. I kind of go off a little bit and do my own thing, just what I like to do, and show you the differences that you can make. So I'm going to make one of the cards here, and then for this particular design, I've gone ahead and made up the 3 others, which I will share with you later. And just as a reminder, this is the stamp and die set that we're working with. And it's the Silver Bells Card Making Workshop. So you get everything in this kit to make all of these cards, including the stamp and die set, which is phenomenal. Where else are you going to get that? Anyways, let's get started. Okay, so I have gone ahead and I cut everything out when I'm doing a bunch of cards. I will put them in a little Ziploc baggie. And just so you know, I always cut more than I think, so I don't have to keep cutting more and more each time I do make a card. And I will cut these extras out like if I have some scraps, and I will put them in with my card envelope so they're there next time I want to make a card. So there you go for that. But the ones I need for this card, I will go ahead and I will lay out. So I've got this die has been incredibly popular, the little ornament here. And then these bows. I mean, these bows you can use year round. And then I've got some paper here. So let's get started. So first I'm going to put on the backing here, and I cut a full length. And Close to My Heart's paper is a light on one side and a dark on the other. I prefer to use the dark on this particular card. Oh my goodness. Seems like every time I turn on the camera, I run out of tape. Let me get this filled again. All right, and we're back with some new tape. Now with these cards, what I wanted to encourage you to do is really line up the fold section. The other sections you can trim if it doesn't line up, but the fold section you can't really cut. So this one you really want to try and line up really carefully. I think we got it there. And when you turn over, you'll see that there is a little bit of extra hanging off there because no one is perfect. So we will cut that off when we're done with the card. Actually, let me do that now. Be much easier before I get everything on there. Just gonna take off a hair here. There we go. Now it's matched up perfect and no one will ever know. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we're going to do some stamping. So what we're going to do first is we're going to stamp the front of the card, and we're going to be stamping that with charcoal ink. And as Kathy Zelsky says, if you've got time, do the prime. When you've got a new stamp, you always want to rub it here or on your hand or your arm. And that takes off some of the finishes that come with the manufacturing of a stamp. And if you don't, you won't get a real clean stamp. And then because I have everything laying on my VersaMat here, what I want to do is lay down a piece of the foam that comes with each stamp set. And we're going to ink this up over here on the charcoal ink. Hopefully you can see that. And it's looking good. So you want to come in here and look, see if it's real straight. Excuse me. There you go. Just let it sit for a minute. Let that ink soak in and do its stuff. And there you go. There's that portion is done. Let me get my ink, my stamp chamois, and clean that off. All right, we'll put that aside. And the next thing I want to do is I want to stamp the inside of the card. And I think I'm simply just going to do Happy Holidays in here. And again, with the charcoal ink, and I've already primed my stamps. So let's go here. Looks good. Again, wash it off with the stamp chamois. And here is some little holly. And I think it's important to note that if you can try and get your stamping blocks as close to the right size of the stamp, you are in a better advantage of not getting ink with your fingers onto your design. So I want to put this over here in the corner. Let it soak in again for a few minutes. There we go. Wipe that off. Put my stamp chamois away for a few minutes. Okay, put this up here for a minute. Now what I've done is I've substituted some of the paper in here just because I thought it would be fun to use. Let me see if I can show you. This is a silver foil paper. Let's see if you can see it there. And it's got a little bit of a texture to it. And it's gonna leave just a slight bit of a border around here just to give it a little bit of bling. And again, I'm gonna show the darker side of this paper, which is the charcoal paper. And all of our papers have matching inks, which is awesome. So let's get this set up on here. And what I try and do is not smush it down right away. You know, that's a technical term, smush. Let's try that again. I think that'll do it. Just a slight hint of the silver, which is what I've used to cut out the top portion of the ornaments. And I'll show you how that's going to come together. And we'll put this little sentiment on the top there. Okay, so we've got all of our stamping done. And again, I try not to smush, technical term, smush that down until I'm comfortable with its placement. So the next thing I want to put together so it has a few minutes to dry is we're going to put these ornaments together. And what I'm doing is I'm slightly offsetting the ornaments here. So in other words, it's going to come in looking like that. You'll see a little bit of gray peeking out from underneath, and I'm going with a lighter portion of, actually this is mink paper that I'm using, and it's the lighter side of the mink. So for this, I would highly suggest you use, let me get rid of my stamping. I would highly suggest that you use, let me test my, yep, there we go. I always keep a piece of paper over there to test my glue on. because once I exploded a whole bottle. So what we're doing is just getting this on here. And what's nice about a liquid glue is it gives you a little bit of wiggle room. So slightly offsetting this, I'm going to wipe some of that off. Get my stamp chamois back out here. And we'll do the other one just the same way. So what I'm wanting to do is I'm going to put them like how I want them first, and I'll explain why in a minute. So I'm liking that, but let's go ahead and put this down first so we can get really an estimate as to what looks the best here as far as the length of the ornaments hanging down. All right, I like that. On these, I'm going to go ahead and use the liquid tape again. And you'll notice that the back side of this one paper that I used is a glitter paper, which you'll see in some of the other cards I've made. And because of that, you really, really want to ink this up, or not ink it up. You want to get lots of liquid glue on here, because sometimes the glitter paper doesn't want to stick real easy. So what you want to do is put this down, and then at the same time, you want to put something heavy on it to weight it down for a little while. We're going to do that while we're putting these other pieces together. So I'm getting this on here. And trying not to get my fingers in here. Okay. So I like that placement. And let's get some of my ink in here to go on there, just my ink cases. So while that's setting, and I'll put some weight on there with my hand too. I'm gonna get rid of this ink so I don't get that anywhere. So what we're gonna do now is we're going to run a bead of my glue strip there, and we're going to run this tape up here and put the string, the DMC Floss, the metallic DMC Floss, up on the tape. Then we're going to take, let's see, too many pieces here. And we're gonna go with that one. This particular design is a zip strip that comes on the edge of all of the decorative papers. So we're going to put this right on top of the glue strip that we ran just a few minutes ago. And we're going to put that down like that. We're going to cut these edges off of the DMC Floss. We can throw that away. Then we are going to, this is the charcoal paper once again, and this is the lighter side, which is what we're going to run the tape on. And we're going to put this just a little bit over this other design right here, which was the zip strip. And we're going to run that again. I've taken off all of the protective backing on the 3D foam tape. And we'll take this off now. And I'm going to lay that right on there. And that 3D tape will give it some dimension, which I love. And we'll put this one over here. there's that card. Let me just clean up the back of this so we're all evened up here. So when you get this kit, workshop, I want to call them kits, excuse me, they will come with the little rhinestones. They're not even rhinestones, there's little sparkles in there. Can you see that? I also have some big ones, which I'll be using on some of my other cards, but this is the size, the smaller one that will come in your workshop. So I'm gonna take one of these and this little pointy tool I use almost every time I make anything. As far And the suggestion I can make is to, when you put your card in an envelope, make sure you turn the decorative side to the back of the envelope, where in other words you would close it, because the machines run through on the front of the envelope when they're going through the post office. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this down here, and again, this is part of a zip strip from the decorative paper, and I'm going to end up cutting part of this off, obviously. Make sure you're happy with how straight this is, and this is where the VersaMat will come in really handy. You can line up the lines there. Cut that edge off. Don't throw these scraps away. Always save those. Just never know. Okay, and here we have some toffee paper where I'm going to use on here. And I'm going to use the dark side on this paper. I know it's hard to see on camera, but there are definitely 2 different shades. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover up the raw edge on this border that we put up. And I didn't get it all the way to the edge. So let me try that again and put a little bit of new tape on there. I'm going to try and use these lines, or I'm going to use the lines on my VersaMat. So we'll put that there. There we go. Happy with that. And we're going to glue up again the lighter side on this paper. Okay. And then on this ornament, we're going to use this again. But what I've done is I've again used that silver foil, the matte foil, and I went ahead and I drew a circle on just a piece of paper. You could also use a punch on this, I believe. But I just drew a circle around this ornament and I cut out some paper. And this is the charcoal paper. And you've got the dark side and you've got the light side. And I've chosen just to use the light side. So let's do this and ink or get some of the glue out. And we've got a little bit hanging out here on the side. I'm going to go ahead and cut that off. And we're going to put that right in there. And this is a fairly flat card, so if you're worried about milling something that has a lot of dimension to it, this would be a good choice. So we're going to put that right in there. This will keep my fingers out of the way. There we go. Hold that down just for a minute until it grabs a hold. And all of the card bases and the envelopes come with these workshops. Again, I don't know of any other company that does that. So if I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments. And while I'm talking about those comments, I would love it if you're joining and having some fun and learning something, if you could give me that thumbs up and subscribe. That would mean a lot to me as I'm getting this channel back off the ground. So here are the 4 different cards I have made. Let me see if I can square you up again in this collection. So a little dimension on the other 3 of these. I've put some 3D foam squares on them. I've got some jewels going on here. It looks like this one has slipped a little. I might want to glue that one. This one's got the Happy Holidays a little bit lower, but you can see the 4 different types that I've done. Welcome back. We're on card number 3. We're going to go back in and do our stamping. And let's see. Get all of our pieces out here. I also want to have you keep in mind that a lot of people bought this workshop because they liked the stamp in it, or the stamp in the thin cuts, the dies. And they've used the paper on other things in their scrapbooks. They've just used the paper and all of the thin cuts and dies in those and not made any cards. So just something to remember so you don't feel like you have to make the cards if you get the card workshop. to do is I want to ink up the side of this. I want to kind of distress it just a little. So these are how I keep my sponges. Each one of my, I have a little tray for each one of my daubers. And as you'll see on this one, I label them all so I know each different color of ink has its own little canister and sponge so I don't mix up my inks. So what we're gonna do here is just so the, so this piece of paper has a little bit of definition from the one below it because we're gonna be layering 3 pieces up. Well, that one got a little, not liking that. So when all else fails, let's turn it around and start over. Okay. Got a little carried away with that ink. So let's try this again. And I'm doing this without my sponge behind it. It still turned out fortunate. Okay. Let's see if I can like keep it under control this time. Just a little bit showing on the front. It's one of those crafts that, you know, you make a mistake, it's no big deal. It's just paper, right? And this is why you do your stamping before you put it all together. So in case you have to redo your stamping, then it's just a piece of paper and you can flip it over or get a new piece, right? And it's not glued to anything yet. So there we go, much better. So we have our stamping done. Put my tool aside there. So let's start putting some of this together. So we are going to, let me put this on first. Make sure I have it the right direction. And on this particular piece of paper, you're going to have some of the white card base showing. I make sure I have no ink on my fingers. I'm pretty guilty of doing that. I get carried away. Okay. I think we've got it squared up there. I'm pretty happy with it. Again, don't smush too much first. I'm happy. Okay, that goes down. Then we have a piece of, I forgot the name of this paper right now, rosemary. This is the color rosemary. Again, I'm going to use the dark side of the paper to face up. And you want to square that as best you can on here. You could also get out your T-ruler for this if you'd like. Again, don't smush until you're happy. I'm happy. Do that. Then what I want to do on here is I want to put some double stick foam tape on the back of this one, and this is a 4.5 inch wide. So this is a roll I've had forever. So I'm going to cut 3 pieces that are all approximately, make sure I get the right side. So this is the side I'm gluing, the point, or the side where I made the mistake. Try not to put it too close to the edge. And I'm gonna do 3 strips because that seems about right. I'm measuring it here on my VersaMat. What I try and do is I try and lay it down without stretching it too much. I'm a little short there, it's no big deal though. So it'll lay flat on the card. If you try and stretch it, it'll kind of, it makes the paper want to bow up. Let go. All right. And this is where I use this pointy tool. And this thing is just, I always have it by my side when I'm crafting. Okay, and this one, what I suggest you do when you're working with 3D tape, foam tape, I always put a little bit of liquid glue on there, so it gives you a little bit of wiggle room, because once this tape sticks, it's stuck. And, you know, you may have to start recreating all over if there's a boo-boo. So, I think I'm pretty okay with that. Just slightly set it down. I think we're good. So that liquid glue just gives you a little bit of wiggle room. So for whatever reason, I have some extras in here. So let's take this up and put these extras over in my container there. So what we're going to do with this one is we're going to kind of do an offset again. So there's the card that we created together. And let me show you the others that I've created. So this one here, you have the sparkle paper behind here, the glitter paper. So it's the offset layer and the bow. This one, I've added the border to, and then the stamp also comes with some dies of, it can be used for anything. I actually see it as coral. It could be, you know, some pine needles, that stamp or that die behind there. And then this one, I've put again, the border in, and I've got a small gem and a couple gems down here. So 4 slightly different ways of making that card. Now this card, this is card number 4. I'm going to show you this up front so you can see. This is probably my favorite card. And the stamp says, Christmas bells are ringing. Can you see that? Let's see if I get it on camera. And what I've done here is this die comes with the workshop. And then what I've done is I've cut some extra bells out of the glitter and then cut off the glitter balls, which I'll show you here in a minute, and put them on the bell, the ringer. So there's that one. This one, I've gone ahead and I've used the toffee ink, toffee right here, and I've used my sponger with the toffee ink and did that on the back there to just have some, you know, it makes the bell stand out just slightly more. And there's another one with the rhinestones a little bit different. I used a small rhinestone on the eye in Christmas. But what I thought I would do is bring out, I'm going to leave those kind of off camera here, slightly on camera. I brought in, out of my own stash, some more traditional paper. And I thought we would put this one together. So what we're going to do is I'm going to use this as a base. Then I'm going to throw in the silver here, or should I say layer up the silver, and we'll put that one there. Let's see what happens. I'm going to do the outside of this card, and the stamp that we haven't used yet is the one that says Christmas bells are ringing, which is appropriate because we're going to be putting some pretty bells on the outside of this card. Perfect. Okay, and on the back of this, well, first of all, let's put our bells on here. So I am minus a bell. Where did my other bell go? There it is. Okay, so we are going to take some tiny snippy scissors here, and I'm going to cut off this little tiny bell here. When I say tiny, it's tiny. And definitely a place for my tweezers. So get those tweezers out. And we are going to put them right here on the bells. That glitter paper just shows up beautifully when we do this. Okay, so there's that. Got something on the bell there. Let's do the other one real quick. All right, got that. Put it down on this other bell. I think we can get rid of those little scissors and the tweezers for right now. And these bells, I'm not sure I'm gonna hang on to them, but I'll put them with my other things that I've already die cut, and I'll put them in with the stamp and die cut set. Who knows, I may wanna use those. And we're going to be layering these up. So what I'm gonna do is, on one of these bells, not both of them, I am going to be putting, I do need my scissors again. I'm going to be putting the 3D foam tape again. And I need to cut it down even more so it doesn't stick out of the side. So there's that. Wet glue on here. I probably should not be doing this on top of the card, but it'll work. I kind of want them to overlay each other. So there's that. Then what I'm going to do is one of the bows, I am going to be putting the liquid glue on. The other one, I am going to be putting some foam dots on. All right, so I just realized that I did something incorrectly. See if you guys can figure out what I did wrong. Where did it go? Can you see what I did wrong? It should be going this way. So let me grab one more card. You could also take another layer of paper, but I have quite a few of these. But you could take, if that happens to you, you could just take another piece of paper and put it down here and stamp on that. But I've got quite a few of these, so. And I think I'm going to use one little bling here. And I'm going to use the tiny one, and I'm going to put it on the eye in Christmas. There we go. I think we're good there. Okay, I can smush. So there it is in a more traditional way. So here you have, the 4 different cards of this series. So there's those. Then we have these 4. Then we have these 4. And last but not least, you have your slim lines. And there you go, 16 cards. So if you enjoyed this video and hanging out with me, I hope that you'll give me a thumbs up because it means a lot to the YouTube people. And consider subscribing, please. It really does help. And all the links are below if you need any of this product, including the tools that I use on those too. But until next time, we'll see you then. Bye-bye.